Good afternoon. This is Andy Ware with Morrow County Development Office. Glad to have everybody join us today, and we'll be starting here. So want to welcome you all to another collaborative effort between the Morrow County Development Office and the Morrow County Chamber of Commerce. This is the one part of their Lunch and Learn session, and again, very glad to work with Joel Smythe and the Chamber on presenting these type of topics. And today, we're very excited to bring you a great presentation from our wonderful partners at the Columbus State Manufacturing Extension Partnership. And today, we're going to have some experts talking to you about one of the most important subjects that our businesses need to be wary of, as well as government and any organization out today. But we're very pleased to have Jeff Spain, who's director of the Columbus State Manufacturer Extension Partnership, with us. And with that, I'm going to turn it right over to Jeff. Thank you so much for bringing this presentation to us. We really appreciate it.
Oh, well, Andy, you're most welcome. We appreciate the opportunity, and on behalf of the manufacturing community in Morrow County, I'd like to thank you for all the great work that's happening in the development office, and Joel, thank you for all the great work happening at the Chamber. Your efforts are recognized, and we're thankful for it. The Manufacturing Extension Partnership, MEP, at Columbus State is a full-service solutions provider for Central Ohio manufacturers. From consulting and product development to education and talent acquisition, we partner with you to grow your manufacturing business. We operate out of three major categories: consulting, training, and talent pipelines. Practically speaking, we provide consulting services, which include Lean, Six Sigma operational efficiency work, supply chain optimization, leadership and workforce analysis, and what we'll be talking about this morning, cybersecurity risk assessments. Through a partnership with local Ohio educational facilities, including Columbus State Community College, the Ohio State University, as well as a number of career and technical centers, we're able to provide training and education for your incumbent employees. Whether they need technical training in robotics, automation, fluid power, electronics, 3D printing, or the ever important soft skills such as communication or leadership and team interactions, we're here for you. Now, over the years, our team has cultivated a vast talent network, a pipeline to help you identify, locate, and hire the right talent at the right time. The MEP is able to offer these services, consulting, training, and talent pipelines, through the use of a proven process. And that process starts with a focused discovery meeting between you and the MEP. We follow that by aligning the best subject matter experts with the right people within your company to create a solution. We document that solution in a detailed service proposal. We offer the services, and then we provide project management and guidance each step of the way and evaluate how we did, always looking to ensure that you got the ROI you were looking for. And as we're so fond of saying at the MEP, we're with the government, we're here to help. Many of our services are subsidized, which allows us to bring more value to your organization. And our team is constantly on the lookout for grants and funding opportunities to be of further assistance. And one such opportunity that came our way was a national emergency grant that allowed us to work more closely with cybersecurity. With our partners at Maplewood Enterprises, we're offering a number of cybersecurity webinars around the region and cybersecurity audits within each of the 12 counties that we represent. As part of this, today, we're going to talk a little bit about cybersecurity and the things that you can do to protect your organization. In a moment, I'll turn things over to our partner, Rob Edwards and Kate McDonald with Maplewood Enterprises. Then at the end of our presentation, I'll be back to ask for your help aligning the funding and assistance available within Ohio to best meet your immediate needs. We need your help by completing a 10-minute survey of how COVID has affected your business. I'll also talk about the availability of 3 fully funded cybersecurity audits that we're going to be offering to Morrow County manufacturers and cybersecurity audit resources that are available outside of these 3. I will say that the 3 audits we're able to offer are going to be specifically for manufacturers, but we'll touch base on that in a second. With all of that said, Kate, Rob, the floor is yours.
Hey, thanks, Jeff. Hi, everybody. I'm Rob Edwards. I'm the owner and founder of Maple Woods Enterprises and the principal consultant. It's been a real honor to work with Jeff and Brent, Erica, and the team here at the MEP with several different Ohio manufacturers so far, and just lending our expertise to help out and help us do a great job here in Ohio in the manufacturing space. Kate McDonald is with me today. She is lead cybersecurity consultant, and she's going to lead us through the presentation here, cybersecurity analysis and protecting your business against cybercrime. So thanks for allowing us to be here today and speak with you. If at any time during the presentation you have any questions or want to hop in there, just go ahead. But with that, Kate, you want to go ahead?
Sure. Thank you, Rob. Hi, everybody. I'm Kate McDonald, as Rob said, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about cybersecurity analysis. And like he said, if you have questions, just jump in. Don't be shy. I actually love getting interrupted. Otherwise, I just drone on. So we'll go ahead and get started. Next slide, please. Okay, so what is a cybersecurity analysis? No matter how big your organization is or how small it is, you need to understand what your current security approach is and the risks of that approach. Once you have that information, you can make informed, deliberate decisions on which risks to accept and which ones to mitigate. So there are three main objectives to cybersecurity. Confidentiality, making sure that only the people that should have your data have it. Integrity, making sure that data is as you expect and that nobody's messing with it, either on purpose or accidentally. And availability, making sure that when you need to get to it, you can. Three of the most common attacks around those three objectives. Phishing is a very common way to get your confidential information by tricking people into clicking on things they shouldn't, giving information out that they shouldn't, etc. Cross-site scripting is a fancy term for just changing the way that your website looks so that instead of clicking on things that people think go to your site, they're actually going to another site where they may be given malware or, again, encouraged to enter information into a form that isn't where they thought it was. And ransomware is a way to lock your data and encrypt it and require a key that you have to pay for. And often that price is really, really prohibitive. And once you pay, they continue to ask you to pay. So yeah, it's pretty bad.
And quite honestly, you know, ransomware, there's no real industry or business or anything that's really immune from the impact of ransomware. It kind of has permeated several different organizations and clients. There are definitely things that we can do to help you protect and help you be able to respond when something like that happens. But this isn't you know, a hacker that's sitting in his basement, you know, going after one company. This is a very sophisticated network of criminal activity that, you know, is kind of collaborating and working together to go after these companies and get their money. So that's definitely something that is very relevant here. It's been relevant in the state of Ohio, and something that Kate and I have seen with several clients for sure.
Yes, it's definitely a crime of opportunity. If they can get you to click on something and they can get money out of you, they don't really care what the business is behind all that money. Next slide, please. One of the things we'll do in a cybersecurity analysis is examine your employee practices. COVID-19 has brought us some new challenges. We have people being out sick more, so we need to cross-train employees so that if somebody is out sick, that job can still be done and we don't lose man hours, people hours. Yeah. Phishing and themed scams are on the rise, especially now that there are vaccines. People will try to trick you into clicking and putting your information into a site where you think you're signing up for a vaccine slot, and it's just stealing information. Things like using VPN for remote access, implementing multi-factor authentication, whether you're dialing into the office or you're accessing something like your email in the cloud. And home office hygiene would just be locking your screen when you leave the room so the cat doesn't walk across your screen, your kids aren't doing something if you are, for some reason, working from Starbucks, people can't come work on you while you go up to get your drink refill or whatever. There are things that we do on the daily basis that don't have anything to do with COVID too that we'll need to talk about. And one of those things is handling sensitive data. We'll ask you, do you have training for handling sensitive data? And how often do your users get trained on that?
Yeah, and the training piece is really something that we talk about a lot with our clients, specifically on these assessments. Employees, they should be, in best case scenario, if it's possible, they should be trained, upon starting during the onboarding process on some of the best practices within cybersecurity and what you expect your employees, how you expect them to handle data or information systems and so forth at the beginning, of course, and then regularly updating them, right? Typically a good recommendation is, if you bring them on at the beginning, you get them trained up. These are the standards. These are the things that we expect you to do. And then every year have some sort of annual refresher training, which can then be reinforced with, messages throughout the year from various members of leadership, just keeping people apprised of the things that are going on in the cybersecurity, information security world, just to help, kind of keep people paying attention so we don't, lull ourselves into a compliant state where we accidentally click on that link and introduce the ransomware into our environment. So staying vigilant on that is very important, and that, consistent, regular, reinforcing type of training is very effective in preventing these things at the source.
Next slide, please. We'll talk about some basic security practices that can cost you little money and give you a big win. Things like Rob mentioned, just getting people educated, getting them thinking securely. Some phishing education, on the regular, just little reminders, hey, these campaigns are pretty big right now. Physical security, if you're in the office and you see someone you don't know, just being empowered to approach that person and say, hey, how you doing? Can I help you find anything? Making sure that they know that you know that they're not expected, and also not letting people piggyback in when you come in with a badge or a key. And always using positive feedback. People rarely do these things on purpose, and helping them learn from their mistakes in a positive way goes a long way toward them being excited to bring the next thing to you. Say, I remember that happened before, but now I remember that I should talk to you about this first. That's huge. And the other thing is protecting that critical data from ransomware, from phishing. You have to have backups. Backups are going to save your company straight up. Keeping them offline so that if you do get hit, they're not sitting on a file share that also gets encrypted. Performing them regularly on a schedule so that you're backing up something every day so that you don't have gaps in your data. And making sure that you can restore them. If you haven't restored your backups, they don't exist. Just pretend they're not there until you can prove that you can get data back out of them. And backup software tends to be fairly inexpensive, fairly easy to set up, especially for smaller companies. It's not a huge undertaking, but it is a very important one.
And I want to just kind of jump in here real quick, and for everyone on the call, we talk about ransomware a lot during this presentation, just because it's something that is so prevalent and may have even impacted folks on this call. But the way ransomware works, if you're not familiar with it, is basically, it comes in, typically, there's a phishing email or something like that, and it could even be something that, hey, Kate, it's Rob, right? They figure out that, Kate works for me, and then it looks like an email coming from me to Kate, right?
Check this file out. Can you review these changes?
Can you do this? Something very innocuous, that if you're not paying attention, you click on it. So you click on it, and then boom, something gets downloaded and the encryption process starts. And so what happens is every file on that computer and every file on any mapped drives that you have will start to get encrypted. And so like if your company has a file share and your users all map to it, it's their H drive or something, right? Or their J drive, on their system. And that's on their computer and they click on that email. Well, then it goes through and starts encrypting every single thing across the network. So when Kate talks about the backups, if you have backups and if those backups are reliable and they are taken at, a fairly regular interval, you won't have to pay the attackers. Instead, you'll have the opportunity to restore back to that point, but to the most recent backup that wasn't encrypted, and then you'll get all of your files back. And there's a method that you can do to do that. So, a lot of times backing up data and things like that isn't really talked about as a cybersecurity function because it's not like cool and cybersecurity sounding. It's just taking a backup. But those backups play a very integral part in the overall protection of your data, right? And as Kate mentioned at the very beginning, availability is one of our CIA triad, one of our 3 things that we're trying to maintain as it pertains to cybersecurity, data protection. So having those backups, it does contribute to the availability of that backup or to the availability of that data, and allows you to recover quickly and not pay the bad guys if something like that was to happen to your organization. So just wanted to add that in there.
Thanks, Rob. All right, next slide, please. Okay. We will examine processes for your business, both for things on the shop floor and in the office. Using shared accounts, are you using them safely? Do you store the password on a Post-it, or do you have, someplace safe that's stored? And are you only using shared accounts where you need to? Leveraging the cloud for things like your email and your basic Office services. It's come a long way in Office 365 and Google G Suite, and some of these options are a great way to offload that responsibility of maintaining that equipment onto somebody else while still getting the benefit of the security, and sometimes even better security, especially with spam protection and things like that. Effective monitoring and alerting, we'll talk about, are you able to monitor your environment? Do you know what's going on? And do you get notified when things happen in a way that you can act on? And one of the big things now is mobile devices. People bring their cell phones to work. Are you letting those on the network? Are you doing it in a secure and safe way? Making sure that if you are accessing company data with those cell phones, do you make sure that they're locked and that sort of thing? We'll definitely talk about whether you have a valid alerting and reporting procedure that you're following, and if not, how can you get there?
Yeah, and Kate and I would say, not wanting to speak for Kate, but I think I can safely say that we love the cloud. And maybe we haven't always loved the cloud, right? Because when it first came out, it was one of these, when they started doing this cloud computing thing, it was one of these things where it was kind of new and you weren't quite sure, for, traditional infrastructure management folks or system administrators, you were relinquishing a little bit of control over your environment, and you didn't really know what was, kind of behind the curtain. And so it had a little bit of scariness to it. But now the cloud providers that are out there in the products that are available are so good. And what Kate's talking about here, let's say you are a small manufacturing company and you have the IT guy, right? Like the one guy that's responsible for all of your systems. Well, it's easy for one guy to miss something or to overlook something or to, configure something just a little bit incorrectly and then not know about it until something goes bad. Whereas, some of the cloud resources that are available to you, you've got hundreds and thousands of people that are working to implement best practices consistently across that environment. And so those protections are kind of built in. You also get the benefit of, like when we're talking about monitoring and alerting, you know, when something goes bad on your network, when something's about to break, or, you know, let's say you have a switch that has 2 power supplies in it, but you don't know that the first one goes down, right? When you go into the cloud infrastructure, that kind of stuff is built into the package, right? Those hundreds and thousands of people are kind of maintaining that for you. And so they know when something happens, and if there's an impact to your service that you're subscribing to, you get notified as well. And so these are really great options. Maybe in the past they were a little bit out of
Shady.
reach, shady, or out of reach for a lot of businesses. Now they're very, you can, a lot of businesses, they've got really good entry points for every size and type of business. And it's really an attainable methodology that you can incorporate into your IT strategy to give yourself a little bit of an edge when it comes to cybersecurity. So we love the cloud now. So there you go. And and one more, by the way, one more thing. Even industries that are known for requiring very high levels of security, like the federal government in their IT systems, they are also racing to the cloud. And so, you know, they're looking to put whatever workloads they can out there. There was a federal directive that came out a couple of years ago, maybe a year or two ago, that started encouraging organizations to take advantage of cloud resources for just that reason. So that gives us even more confidence in saying, yeah, this is a good platform to operate on, and something that might be worth considering for your company.
Yep. All right, next slide, please. So we will talk about the tools that you use. Things that aren't listed here is just things in the office, file shares, specific software that your company needs to run. But one of the big things that's very unique about manufacturing is we have all these industrial control systems. And I have seen things that are older than me, but they work. So if it works, why get rid of it? But let's keep it safe. We will encourage you to air gap anything that doesn't need network connections. And a lot of these ICS systems that have USB inputs or whatever, we want to make sure that we're checking the things that we plug in for virus and malware, just so that we're not introducing things into the system that needs to be kept safe. Depending on how old or new your equipment is, vendors may be supplying security updates. If they are supplying them, are you patching? Are you applying those updates? And are you doing it in a timely manner? These things are very important. As we know, there was an incident over the summer where some malware got into an ICS system and caused a very large outage with a local-ish company. And we don't want anybody else to have to learn that lesson the hard way. So that's something that we will definitely discuss. In the process of all this, we will talk about, do you have a vulnerability management program? Do you patch your office equipment? Do you patch your servers? Are you considering your ICS equipment in that process?
Yeah, and Kate mentioned kind of old systems. You guys may or may not have something like this, but I'd like to share this story. When I first started in the IT world as a PC setup technician and desktop support technician, I worked for an Ohio manufacturer. And one of the things that we did, we made some equipment, some compressors, and that equipment would be tested, right? And there would be a room, you know, the room would be set up with all these compressors running at, you know, full tilt, you know, for hours and hours and hours on end. And the computer that was in there actually collecting and running the test data was running Windows NT 4.0. So and even at that time, that was a very old OS, right? We were in the, I don't know, maybe Windows XP, going 98 to XP, somewhere in that time frame. So Windows NT was still very old, and I would venture to guess that at that moment it wasn't getting patched anymore either. But because there was an air gap in place, you know, that sequence, that testing program had been running for, who knows how long, right? And it worked, and it gathered the data that it needed to gather, and provided the engineers with the information that they needed to make the tweaks to the design so that they could put out great products and understand what the limits were and those types of things. So those things exist in people's environments, and that's totally fine. We just cannot, have them connected to the internet, right? Because they will get infected, they will get attacked, and they will be rendered useless. But there are techniques and methods that we can put in place to keep those kind of old systems, doing what they do so well in the environment without exposing them to some sort of outside threat. So anyways, just wanted to share that story there.
Great. Next slide, please. To wrap this all up, cybersecurity is a holistic thing. We want to talk about the people in your environment. Do they know what they should be doing? Do they have processes to do those things? And do they have the tools and resources to make those things happen in a safe and secure way? An analysis will help you understand where you're strong and doing a really great job and places that you could use improvement. And we will also provide you recommendations on where to get the best cost benefit outcome. So there are things that you can do that we can tell you, this is going to be cheap and fast, but it's going to be a big win. These things may take longer, cost a little more money, or just require more effort. And one of the things that I really want to emphasize is that last bit there. It doesn't matter how big or small you are. If you have 500 people in your company, it's not too late to implement things if you haven't already. And if you have 2 people, 3 people in your company, this is a great time to start because you're small, you want to get bigger. So from the ground up, thinking about security as you do things will make things a lot easier as you grow. And I'm always very much an evangelist about be secure, do your best, no matter how big or small you are. So that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Yep, that was great, Kate. And when we come through here, again, some of these things can be a little bit, if you're not in IT or in cybersecurity, some of these things can seem a little jargony, or they can seem a little bit intimidating to kind of think about and look at. But one of the things we really try to do, and we work with the MEP to make sure that the way that we're presenting the data is just right, is we try to cut through some of that jargon stuff and kind of get down to the plain English, explanation of this is what's happening, and here's how we can here's some recommendations or some suggestions that we have that you as an organization can take and implement, right? Things that you can do easily, you understand what you're doing, why you're doing it, kind of take all of the extra stuff away and just really lay it out there in a way that's easy to understand and build a plan off of and make decisions off of, right? We might make a recommendation that, you could say, well, that's a nice risk, that you've called out, Kate. But, we're going to go ahead and accept that risk. For now, we're fine with that, and we're going to continue running like that. But thanks for calling that out, and that's completely fine. Right? We just want to make sure that, kind of as an outside set of eyes, kind of outside looking in type of perspective, that we just share our expertise, share our experiences, share our knowledge with you, so that when you are making a decision about what you're going to do as far as cybersecurity is concerned, you're doing it with the best information possible. So, Kate, that was a great job. Thank you, as always. Jeff?
Well, Rob, Kate, definitely thank you. I appreciate that. I would like to open up to any possible questions. We have been monitoring some of the chats to see if there was anything coming up. Brent, did you see anything that was missed question-wise by chance?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't either. There was a lot of good stuff that was covered. Every time I thought there was going to be something, Kate, you explained it all. So I will say the MEP is available to answer more questions. If something comes up after this webinar and you think, gosh, I wish I would have asked, send us an email. Just reach out to mep@cscc.edu, and we will definitely get it right back to you. Joel, I know we'll be passing along a copy of today's webinar to you for distribution, however you would like to do it. Before I turn it back to Joel to close us out for the day, I would like to share about the 3 cybersecurity audits that I referenced in the beginning. We received that national emergency grant. It was a NEEP grant. And one of the things that we wrote into that particular grant was, with the emergence of individuals working from home, the emergence of that remote work, and the sheer explosion of Industry 4.0 within manufacturers' facilities, that cybersecurity was something we needed to address. The National Institute of Standards and Technology agreed with us and gave us enough funding that we are able to provide 3 fully funded cybersecurity audits within each of the counties that we represent. And we came up with a very scientific way of how we were going to offer these 3 audits out, and it was first come, first serve. So we're going to respond to the first individuals that reach back out to us with those complimentary audits. Going beyond those 3, we are obviously available and happy to help provide those audits, and we can talk about what those cost to people that need to take advantage of that. So that's that part. We did ask also for your help in addressing a survey, and we'll be sending an email out to all the participants of this call asking that you take between 9 and 10 minutes and fill out a COVID survey. That will help the MEP as well as Governor DeWine's office to determine how best to allocate resources to manufacturers within Central Ohio. With that, Joel, Andy, closing comments you'd like to make about today's webinar, or anything that you'd like to put out there?
Yeah, sure, Jeff. Thank you. Thanks to you and Brent, and we sure appreciate the Manufacturing Extension Partnership at Columbus State for making this possible. And thank you, Kate and Rob, for your presentation. Appreciate Maple Woods Enterprises and giving us this valuable information. I certainly tuck some of it away for my practices, and appreciate the partnership with Andy Ware at Morrow County Development. Thanks to all who attended. We just want to make sure that we're providing needed information in this season, and this is certainly one of those things, one of the bits of information that's been helpful. Just as a reminder, this was recorded. It'll be available on the Morrow County Chamber of Commerce website. I'm going to add that to the blog post that's currently there, as well as the Morrow County Development website. So, and then the presentation deck, or the presentation, will be sent out as well to all who registered. If you don't receive that or did not register, please feel free to email me at the Morrow County Chamber, Joel at morrowchamber.com, or Andy at the development office. We can help get you those notes and the details there, especially with the contact information for each of these people on the last page there. And yeah, be sure to contact Jeffrey about the info for the audit grant for the manufacturers if you need that. So again, thank you. We appreciate it, and glad that there was a good response that there is here. So thank you.
Thank you.
Y'all have a great day.